Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Binance Podcast. My name is Wei Zhou. I'm the Chief Financial Officer for Binance. So what I want to do with this show is to spend time talking to specialists, entrepreneurs, scholars, influencers, basically leading people from a variety of industries. Hopefully, through these conversations, we can share insights on how blockchain is changing not just these different industries, but also in changing the world. Here's a quick disclaimer. All opinions expressed by our host and our guests on this podcast are merely their own opinions. They do not imply any endorsements or opinions of their companies. You should not take these opinions as specific investment advice, as you will be solely responsible for your own investment. Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Binance Podcast. Today, I'm really excited to be joined by Sandeep Nailwal, who's the CEO and co-founder of Matic. Matic has actually been a quite interesting company in that we Binance, brought them to market in a launchpad, introducing them to sort of the Binance ecosystem. And since then, they've basically have gone out and continued to deliver and ship in terms of what they've promised. They recently launched their mainnet about a month ago. And I'm really excited to have Sandeep on the podcast to talk a little bit about their experience sort of through the Binance Launchpad program, as well as sort of their recent developments with the launch of their mainnet. I think, but more importantly, as one of the pioneer companies within the blockchain space in India, as Binance have been an active investor and supporter of the Indian blockchain ecosystem. So I'm really excited to bring Sandeep on the Binance podcast to basically, to introduce him and the company to listeners on the Binance podcast. Sandeep, welcome to the Binance podcast.
Thanks, Wei, for having me here. Thank you, Binance team.
Before we get in, can you give us a little bit background intro in terms of, how you came to find Matic and then how you ended up in blockchain? As a talented engineer, you basically have an entrepreneur, you've had multiple things that possibilities you can work on, but how did you end up in the blockchain space and then come upon Matic?
Yeah, so basically I, ventured into, so I was running a B2B startup back in 2015, 2016. And, ironically, at that point also, my startup was doing good, but it was not scaling the way I had imagined, right? So then I started thinking about that there were some things which had a lot of manual intervention. So I thought that I wanted to do something in the sort of tech space, like the high tech space, rather than something having a lot of human intervention, a lot of people requirements. Other than that, I want to do something in the high tech space, right, which can be scaled accordingly. And then I ventured in artificial intelligence and machine learning, and then I was exploring multiple technologies. I knew about Bitcoin back in 2013 when I was doing my management related course. I'm a computer science engineer, but then I also did management degree. I had heard about Bitcoin at that point. Even some of my friends were talking about Bitcoin mining and things, but I did not pay that much attention at that point. But then in 2016, when I started reading about blockchains and Bitcoin, especially the iconic book Mastering Bitcoin, and then 3-4 chapter in, I had that aha moment, like every one of us, would have had in our lives. And then once you fall in that rabbit hole, then there is no going back, right? So it's the same situation. So I realized that this is a big technology and this has a potential to, completely change the world, the way we see it, because I don't see blockchain as a technology, but it's a fundamental shift in how we as human beings organize amongst ourselves. From there onwards, I started doing a lot of things, and then even ventured back into engineering. And then initially I started, because there were not many people who knew blockchain programming and stuff. So I myself went hands-on into programming and all that. And then from there, I started a small consulting company. And then, suddenly in 2017, everything, boomed into we had the big, excitement around the Bitcoin and blockchains around that time. So the consulting, work started doing a lot of great things. And then I also got a lot of prominence and visibility in the small Indian blockchain community at that time. So in some of those groups, and I used to provide a lot of like technical solutions, and my other co-founder JD, who's the CEO of Matic, also Jayanti. So
Mhm.
we also met in the same group, and then from there our friendship started, and we started working on a lot of research projects and all that. And Jayanti was working on in the as a part of the independent plasma research group, where
Mhm.
he was one of the implementers of plasma MVP. And then he was also showing me some of the POCs he had built, and we realized that, oh, this can be actually used for providing the scalability, because we actually wanted to build something related to applications, but then we realized that there was a very big gap in the on the infrastructure side. So we thought that this is something that we can do it in a slightly different way, the way the larger plasma groups were trying to do. So we wanted to have a
Yep.
full blown side chain and all that. So from there the journey started.
Yeah, and then I think for listeners who don't really understand, sort of, because I know value proposition or the problem Matic is trying to solve is to basically to make the Ethereum transactions basically much more scalable, right, and much faster and much more secure. Sort of, how did you come up on that problem? And can you talk a little bit about when you guys were originally trying to? We see a lot of problems of scalability and speed on the Ethereum network. There's been a lot of builders that have been trying to attack that, right, and solve that issue. But what was sort of unique about the approach that you guys took from Matic?
So as I said that, this was again back in 2000, end of 2017, and initially even Jayanti was looking to build something related to end user application, right? Initially, and then very initially, like and we realized that the infrastructure is just not ready. CryptoKitties had come, and then it choked the entire Ethereum network for weeks, right? And the transaction fees went up to like $5, $6, and things like that. Even now with DeFi, that we are seeing the same thing, right? So the first fundamental, fundamental insight that we thought always is that for any layer one solution, for it to be decentralized, secure, it will be slow, right? So we all know the scalability trilemma that we have, like apart out of decentralization, security, and scalability, you can choose only two, right? So we realize that for layer one, there will always be a problem in terms of the scalability. And also, you might have noticed that the similar approach Bitcoin developers have taken in, right? So they say that we are not going to touch the Bitcoin base layer, and they want to achieve the scalability on the Lightning network and things like that, right? So basically the insight there is that the layer one needs to be very secure and decentralized, because everyone has to trust it. So it needs to act as a settlement network rather than the full business activity network itself. So the insight from there is that layer one will remain like that, and layer two will be the area where you will have the business activity. Now, we were a part of the plasma research group. As I was saying, that Jayanti was the first guy who built the POC for plasma MVP. And from that sense, we realized that one problem that Plasma was trying to solve was to provide these fast transactions. But the other problem was that it was still focusing only, the transactions. And what we thought was that in order to have, large or amount or kind of true scalability, we will need a layer two which supports EVM, which supports a full-blown smart contract. And that was the
Mhm.
original this thing which separated us from the core plasma kind of objectives, that we wanted to have a side chain which supports not
Mhm.
only payment transactions but also smart contract, right? And that
Mhm.
is what we set out for, and we launched our mainnet recently. That's one side of the things where we want to support the smart contract side of thing. The other problem is that even now, if you see on the Bitcoin side, on the Ethereum side, although DeFi is booming, and in DeFi you need, like, mostly people have large transactions, like you are doing $100 minimum, $100 to maybe $1,000 or even $10,000 DeFi related interaction, right? Where you are putting some money into a CDP on MakerDAO, or you are putting out a loan on Compound or whatever, right? So there you don't really care about paying $1 for transaction fees. If you are spending like $1,000, $1 transaction fees is fair enough. But
Mhm.
when you are using a DApp where you are playing a game where you have hundreds and hundreds of these items, let's say NFTs, right? NFT assets, like let's say $1 NFT asset. you won't be able to pay even 10 cents in fees if that's for the NFTs of that small size. So we
Uh-huh.
wanted to enable smart contracts, which not only has the payments, but these DApp and gaming and all the anything specific related to the application side also. So to provide the blockchain scalability to that. And from there, that has been our objective. And then, we've been going very good on that, and we've seen a lot of kind of interest from the DApp space and the gaming space. In gaming, we are already very, very big. I think almost all the top games currently, are either exploring or most of them have declared that they'll be moving to Matic network. Even the big projects like Decentraland and Somnium Space and the Sandbox, they have publicly showed their interest, and many of them have already completed their integrations also. Even on the normal DApp side, you can have decentralized applications. On that front also, we are seeing a lot of interest in terms of the third party adoption, right? So that has been a good journey in that sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think just sort of the what's been really amazing, I think, on our end, at least for me, is basically witnessing the two aspects. I think when I first came across sort of Matic during the Binance Launchpad last year, right? And sort of over the last 12 to 18 months, you guys basically have continued to sort of, both build, drive adoption, and then also to a certain extent, what I call sort of very active in terms of communicating with your community, and then sort of also building up that community and leveraging that in terms of pushing for the adoption. I don't want to sort of like a lot has changed, but can you talk a little bit about how you guys came? What was the Launchpad experience like? I know that was a long time ago now, and then how have that really sort of helped you guys at least to sort of to get to where you are today?
Basically, we started approaching the Launchpad team back in August 2018. And I think for us, because we are coming from India and there were not many big projects known from India, it was not a, easy sell because even to the Binance team that because, before around that time, there were some Indian projects which, got some attention, but then, they turned out to be almost like, scam projects. One or two
Mm-hmm.
projects were there, and due to that, because there were very few projects and only two, three came out at that point in time, and they did some, some of these scammy kind of activities. So what happened is that I think it got a bad name for the Indian ecosystem at that point in time because that was still 2018, like mid of 2018, and 2000 end of 2017 was the whole frenzy around the ICOs and all that. So initially we approached the Binance team and we had a very, very long due diligence process where we were constantly putting out whatever, like we have been a very prolific contributors to Ethereum. So we always we communicated all of those things to Binance team and all that, and we even some of the Binance team we met in the Ethereum hackathons and they saw what we are doing. We actually showed them the projects, so they built up the confidence slowly and steadily that okay, this is a solid team and we can back it. And we got finalized for Binance Launchpad in February. So that was around 7 to 8 months of grinding, due diligence on our side. But then
Mm-hmm.
that was very good because the questions Binance team kind of asked from us, those were like really very solid questions, and that forced you to think through the entire journey and the path that you are going to do, right? So that was good part of that due diligence process. And then just before that, we had also like, just around that time in September, October, we were also able to convince Coinbase we were doing, and some of the things that Coinbase's internal teams were doing, they were also interacting or using some of our products like Dagger, which is an event notification tool for Ethereum application, Ethereum smart contract. So due to that, we built up slowly the confidence, and then I think then we got selected for Binance Launchpad, and from there we have been like the top performing IEO on Binance Launchpad. And in terms of our performance, both in terms of the markets as well as the biggest part is the volumes kind of things. So we have been
Mm-hmm.
constantly one of the top volume projects. And I was even, somebody was giving me a figure like somebody external that for the Binance Launchpad project, till now we have had around 10 projects, right? And then the
Mm-hmm.
volume of Matic is 40 to 50% of all the projects combined, right? So
Mm-hmm.
launchpad projects combined, right? So that's a very huge advantage, and that actually includes the launch day volumes. If you consider the normal day volumes once the project has launched, and then after that stabilize, So we have been like really doing really good. And then I think the one of the biggest parts that helped us in that in maintaining a very good community first approach. So we have always been very transparent. I think we are the only team which has a proper spreadsheet, public spreadsheet, where if any token moves, even like a single token moves from our smart contract to like the foundation contract to anywhere else, we actually mention why it is moving. And then if there is any large token movements, let's say for listing somewhere or something like that, we inform that also upfront to our community that okay, this is going to happen. We are going to move XYZ number of tokens. Please don't be surprised, and this is the purpose for this. So I think due to that, a large number of community has built the confidence around Matic, because they know that the team is not trying to, which is a very common case, to be honest, in this space. The team is not trying to front run them or anything. And we, like, I myself am personally present on our Telegram groups. The community members can tag me for any questions that they have, and then I respond directly to them. And I personally know at least, like, maybe even around 200 people who ping me, or on and off, that okay, I was, this is this, you are doing good or you're not doing good in something. All that, we take the community feedback. So that has been very helpful for us. Now that we have launched our mainnet, the real growth or the real journey starts now, because now that we are on mainnet, and luckily today is our staking. So today is our staking going live for public. So, and this is the perfect day for this podcast also.
That actually takes me to the next next two questions. Is how, and then can you explain then basically, like, the token obviously is Matic. How does the token work within the network? Can you walk us through that, and then also sort of maybe use that as a pivot into sort of how the staking on the network?
Yeah. So Matic network is a full-blown proof of stake network, right? And on the side chain, in order to participate in the side chain, that means whether you are a validator or whether you are a user. So the way to participate is Matic token. Like if you are a validator, like because you are validating what is happening in the network, you have to put a stake. And since we are a layer two, all of this stake goes on the Ethereum mainnet, right? So on Ethereum mainnet, you have to put a stake, and then you can become a validator on Matic network. Once you become a validator, you start participating into the validation of the network. You do a consensus amongst your other validators, and then you put a checkpoint on Ethereum, on which the validators earn the rewards, because they are. If you are a user or a developer and you want to deploy smart contracts and everything, you don't need to stake, but then you have to pay the gas fees, just like you have to pay on Ethereum. You have to pay the gas fees in Ethereum token. On the Matic network layer 2 sidechain, you have to pay the gas fees in Matic tokens. So these are the two primary use cases of Matic. And the staking use case that I'm saying, so there can be 100 plus validators on the Matic layer 2, and eventually going into maybe thousands of validators. So you can initiate a validator node, and then you can also ask people to delegate to you, because not everyone can be a validator in the network. So if you are a normal, let's say, token holder, what you can do is you can delegate to any of the validators. So we have a staking UI where you can see who all are the validators, and you can delegate to them. Now, once you delegate to them, the validator, because they are running the full infrastructure and all that, they might charge you a small commission fees on the rewards you get, right? And then that commission fees is basically their incentive. And then they have their own tokens also staked. So they make money on their own stake tokens plus the commission on the delegated tokens. And what you do is that the large part of the stake actually goes into the network, right? So it gets staked into the network. And due to that, like, and these tokens which are staked into the network, let's say if you are a validator and then your validator node falters, let's say there is a long time it is not signing the consensus transactions, or it actually has some malicious behavior, let's say double sign. So there is a slashing part also, like, which happens on Ethereum. So the Ethereum smart contracts which are connected to Matic layer 2 sidechain, so they will be able to detect that if somebody is doing like, the consensus mechanism is designed in a way that it is able to detect that if some validator is having a malicious behavior. And if there is a malicious behavior, there is a slashing that happens, like your tokens are slashed basically on Ethereum mainnet if there's a malicious behavior, right? Or fraudulent behavior for that matter. So that stake actually contributes to the overall security of the network. And then a large part of the stake, basically the token supply, gets staked into the network, which is securing the network basically essentially securing the network, and then the stakers actually get the rewards for participating in the network consensus.
Mhm.
They also get to have the transaction fees once that there are more and more transactions. So that's the basic idea around it.
That's really cool. What has the reception of the market and then sort of the community has been over the last few months with the release of your network?
Yeah, actually, we have been in beta mainnet for quite some time, and then the reception, as I was already mentioning, in terms of
Yep.
third-party adoption,
Yep.
we are already seeing a huge amount of interest. We have more than 50, 60, dApps currently building and deployed on either of our beta mainnet or our testnets. There are more than 50, 60, or even 100 in that sense who are exploring currently, actively deploying, testing, and things like that. So, applications, once the mainnet is live, and today the staking is going live, and there was some other preparatory things because it's a phase-wise launch. So
Mhm.
I think early next month the deployments are going to start on Matic network. Once the deployments start, then you will start seeing a lot of transactions on the Matic side chains. So in terms of adoption, we are seeing a very good kind of response from the market. In terms of staking, also it's it's one of the most anticipated events, in our community and in overall crypto community. Like if you go to Twitter in general, you will see a huge number of people talking about Matic Network. They are Matic Network staking, and they are interested in staking in the network. Overall, the reception has been very overwhelming, I would say. And then
Okay.
once the staking starts today, the ground reality will start showing, right? So we'll get to know in the next maybe 2 to 3 weeks how many of those tokens actually get staked in the network, right? So that's the
Mhm.
criteria we are targeting. Like in few weeks, in the 3 to 4 weeks, we are targeting, let's say 30% of the network, 20 to 30% of the network gets staked. And eventually over the next 6 months, we hope that the network will have like 50+% staking into the network.
Thank you very much for your time and sort of talking about it. What comes sort of the last bit of the show is basically, as you know, Binance has been really active in India. We basically
Mhm.
acquired the leading exchange in India, WazirX, and I understand Matic with you guys, are one of the few sort of real well-known and well-recognized sort of, global companies within the global blockchain and crypto space to have sort of really come out of India. In combination with the Supreme Court decision to overturn the RBI ban on banks dealing with cryptocurrencies, at least on my end, we've seen a lot of enthusiasm coming from sort of the Indian community. Can you talk a little bit about what you guys are seeing on the ground in India, in particular on the excitement? Because I'm sure other entrepreneurs have come to you guys to learn and to study.
Yeah, we can divide it into actually two main categories. So one
Mhm.
category is the developers category, right? So developers and entrepreneurs, and the other category is the, let's say, crypto trading kind of community. So
Mhm.
I think before this ban came in back in 2018, at that point, Indian trading community had already grown very big, and then the volumes Indian markets had started growing into the top 5, 6 countries by volume. So trading community is already fairly big, but then this ban actually removed a lot of reduced that community to a large extent. But then Indian exchanges did very innovative kind of stuff like P2P, on ramp kind of networks and all that. That was very innovative from Indian entrepreneurs. And then the community kind of survived. The volumes became very, very low because those kind of networks were still slow. Supreme Court decision actually, so India is largely a very democratic country. So in that sense, the ban imposed by RBI was challenged by multiple citizen bodies, and then Supreme Court said that there is no basis for that. So this kind of circular. So this was a very simple circular from RBI, because RBI is kind of the Federal Bank of India, and all the banks are affiliated to them. So what they had done was, this was not a law anyway, right? This was Bitcoin or crypto was never illegal before that also. Only what RBI did was that they just issued a circular to all the banks affiliated to them that, hey, please don't support crypto exchange related accounts. And then that was it. The moment that happened, all that, the on ramp of the INR to crypto went for a toss, right? So that's what they try to do in terms of getting more time. And India has also very large retail community, and I think they were not also wrong. The government is also not wrong in that sense, because you have to protect the retail from many of these scam schemes, and we see it all over the world. That was a good step at that point. But now Supreme Court has revoked that kind of circular also. I still feel that government will come up with more regulations around the cryptocurrencies and all that, so that retail population is basically protected from some of these scams. And that would be good for the community overall. But right now there is a huge activity in the the crypto community kind of this thing. But on the developer side of things, and which are where we are more focused, we do a lot of hackathons. And last year we did around 50 to 60 hackathons in many technology schools in India and everything. So developer community has always been pretty big. So you all know, everybody knows that India has a large, software developer population. I think it's more than the, population of many countries, the number of software developers we have. We definitely have a lot of software developers over there. And then even if a very small percentage of them gets interested into blockchain, globally, it's still one of the biggest, it becomes very like one of the biggest community. So we have a lot of developers over here, but they are not at that scale where, most of them are creating protocols or things like that. But then they are contributing to various different projects. Like some of them are working as freelancers. Some of them, you might see them in the bounty, like, winning a lot of bounties on these, public platforms like Bitcoin and things like that. So developer community has already been, but what this, flip flop in the policy, like, this Supreme Court order and this and that, what it does is that it has actually kind of created has created an environment in the past. And even now, that is that entrepreneurs, like the developers are there, they have a lot of friction or resistance when they want to launch their own ventures. That's what we feel that, they can't launch crypto native ventures, right? As of now, we don't see too many developers doing that. People are trying to use blockchain, but they still can't do full blown crypto kind of things. That's a lot of detriment. Otherwise, they have to set up companies like outside of India, which is costly. And then, they need to get funding. And the other problem with this flip flop from the government is that Indian VCs specifically have not joined the, ecosystem by and large. Right. So what happens is that the developers and the entrepreneurs don't have that kind of funding. So that's why they look outside for the funding things. And the community is pretty large and it's growing at a very, very fast rate. I'm pretty sure we are already, I think there in some survey 6 months back, we were already number 2 community in terms of overall blockchain developers across the world after the US. And I think, we would already be, closing in on that gap very, by now in the last 6 months, we would have closed that gap even more. What I feel is that if the government comes up with a more, clear regulatory stance, and then VCs are also allowed to invest and all that, we will see a large boom in Indian kind of developer and entrepreneur community in crypto. As of now, it's growing well, but not too many entrepreneurial, ventures are coming out of India.
Yeah, I think I visited, India last year for about a couple of weeks. And then my sort of feedback and color that I got from under the ground is that there is still a significant need for capital because the access to capital is still highly lacking. With it, especially of entrepreneurs and founders that actually have the talent and actually have the ideas. We can debate the ideas, but a lot of them definitely have have global level type of talent. With sort of access to capital being a huge barrier for these entrepreneurs to kickstart, But one of the interesting things is the amount of capital that's needed to get things started is actually much lower too. So I just feel like it's the market as a whole, large number of shots on goal. But I think it's really awesome that you guys are setting the tone and then sort of the pacemaker. What is it? The lead car leading the community in India, leading developers and showing them that what is possible once you sort of move into the sort of blockchain and crypto mindset. So that's something that I'm really, really happy about. Yeah. Okay, cool. I really thank Sandeep for spending the time with us today. I really appreciate him.
Yeah. Thanks, Ray and Binance team for having me here.
Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this interview as much as I did. If you like this show, please share this episode on Twitter, Facebook, Telegram, WeChat, or any other social media platforms. Please don't forget to subscribe to the Binance Podcast, and see you next time.